Welcome everyone, this is Hypnoser and that's another episode of the Advanced Philosophical series. It's about reimagining perspective and comes from Nietzsche to the creation of the seventh sense. We'll explain all things in detail, but first what we want to talk about today. First, we're going to do some introduction to the topic and remind ourselves previous ideas. Then we will explain a bit about perspectivism. Then we're going to talk about sensual determinism once more. We will talk about creating a seventh sense and what happens if it fails. Okay, so let's start by reminding ourselves the term of retrofuturism, which was defined in detail in the musical series. So it basically has two goals: to remind ourselves about the forgotten part of the past and show opportunities and also threats associated with the development of technology. And a little bit of reminder here, all the images used here are generated by deep AI. Okay, so we can say that in the 21st century society feels somewhat indifferent, and there is difficult to find people that actually seem to be believing in something and are interested in the external world. Little means how many, we don't know, but that depends on the scale. And where does this indifference come from? Now we would say that depends on perspective. What is a perspective? And here we delve into the concept known as perspectivism, and that's a concept which says that the world is made of complex interactions of interpretive processes which look at the certain event from unique orientation. Nietzsche argued that the early philosophers have ignored the influence of their perspective on their work and failed to control the effect of perspective. But also notices that perspective can act positively to the efforts. Okay, so what is the relation between this perspectivism and the earlier mentioned indifference? As we said in the previous course, we need to avoid disinformation and to find the right perspective, but how to do it? Common perspective for a given set of objects, that's the first thing. We don't distort the image from universal perspective. Already there is a question, what is universal perspective? I guess that depends of the process of word creation. Don't relativize again universal perspective. Is there a universal perspective? No. That depends on definition, but for example, in Minecraft or in coordinate system, the universal perspective is usually the so-called beginning of a coordinate system, so where all points are 0. In most common case, but well, where should be 0? No, that's not always clear. So that depends. Okay, but going to the next point, is sensual determinism mentioned earlier connected with universal perspective? No, we don't know for sure, because as we said, we don't know for sure where universal perspective is supposed to be in many cases. So we have two options, yes, and we have then essentially determinism, and if no, we are rejecting our senses and creating new replacement sense, also called the seventh sense. So now let's talk about a bit more about the seventh sense. So we are assuming that all previous 6 senses, so sight, hearing, touch, smell, taste and warning, intuition, do not exist, and we need to create a substitute that will compensate for them. This sense will be essentially a tool for reading in this neo-creation process, or at least something that feels as a creation, because at least theoretically the world existed all the time. So what is the feature of that substitute sense? Better visualization, or at least we hope that there will be better visualization, because it's not so simple. We can create common area of understanding for the area for objects using the same sense, and reduce distortion. Again, we are hoping for this, but it's not so simple. And because it's not so simple, we might not meet the goals to create the seventh sense. So we can either try again, or if it's not possible to try again, we create non-sensory reality. And here in the right we have sort of an example that feels like a non-sensory reality, like the world covered in black, where nothing is clear. Actually, in perfect non-sensory reality, you will just see black screen and nothing on it. But let's say this is not perfect non-sensory reality in this picture. Okay, so that will be all for now. Thank you guys for watching, and we see each other in the next episode.